What killed your passion for something you once were very passionate about? My mother reading my journals and using what I wrote against me in arguments or bringing up stories in embarrassing situations. I stopped writing so that she couldn't have my thoughts and feelings used against me anymore. Alternatively, I still write, but haven't seen my dad in 6 years. I used to enjoy a lot of things that required time and concentration, such as reading long books, writing, etc. Now, I have a shorter attention span and I do those things much less frequently. So, distractions, I guess. Same here. I think Reddit killed my attention span, or at least helped. I used to love singing so much. I wasn't ever the most naturally gifted, but I was a practicer and always interested in improving my technique. I started really getting into it when I was about 10 years old and joined a vocal assembly in secondary school. After 4 years, we got a new teacher and the small group had grown a lot. I was the only person in the choir who has been there from day one, without a year or more of a break. But after 4 years we got a new teacher as our old one retired and she so clearly had her favorites and I was not one of them. She was basically obsessed with one girl, who was definitely her prodigy, and me and some of her less special students got sidelined. It made me so insecure and uncomfortable that it ironically really showed up in my voice and I just stared, sounding quiet and repressed all the time, which made her push me back even more. In year 6 I asked her for an honest word and told her how I and some others really felt about this and she vowed to be more conscious of it. What do you know? It lasted a month before she was back to her old self and I decided to quit the choir after the year. Legit same thing happened when I used to play the violin. I gave it up for years until I got a better teacher who was awesome. When I was a kid I liked math. In 3rd grade, I moved across town and went to a new school. My old school was working on multiplication, and the new school was on division. I didn't get it, because the teacher didn't want to go backwards to teach me the basics. She called me stupid in front of the entire class. I can't remember a single time after that point I enjoyed math. She also gave me ISS for laughing at the name dong on a worksheet, but somehow that didn't ruin me terrible sense of humor. So I used to write, specifically poetry, to cope with my hard adolescence. My father ruined it for me by constantly invading my privacy, reading through my things, always searching my room and internet history, etc., and made it so it wasn't even safe to express my thoughts to myself on a piece of paper. I used to write a bit until my mom found a poem and sent it to my English teacher. Depression and money. I used to paint every day, then I just kept getting sadder and now all we have goes towards the absolute necessities. Can't buy acrylics, don't wanna get out of bed anyways. I know the feeling. I have plenty of extra. I could mail them to you as hold at your local post office as not to share personal info. When I was in middle school and high school I used to write like there was no tomorrow. That and draw. But writing was my passion. I used to get up early on the weekends to sneak into our family's computer room to get a head start on the day of writing. It was such an outlet for me and I truly felt sure of who I was and what I wanted in life, since writing and fantasy allowed me to live as many different people. I will never forget the day one of my high school teachers found the sketchbook I had full of notes and drawings on my various worlds and plots, and told me I would never get anywhere with it. Real life meant no sorts of arts, and I should just drop it now to start preparing for college. That night I couldn't write. It would be years before I ever could imagine drawing again. And even to this day writing doesn't come naturally to me anymore. I had stories that were hundreds of pages long and now even managing a few is such a struggle. That teacher, along with comments from other adults and people in my life, destroyed the fire I had for creativity, and I struggle every day wondering what I could have been. Not to only vilify adults, my first boyfriend also said my writing took up too much of my time and demanded I stop it, but I looked up to my teachers and hearing that just killed a part of me. Gregorian chant has always been a passion of mine, but there's no place nearby to perform it. Chant remains vibrant and engaging, but it needs to be sung regularly or it dies on the vine of inactivity. Sadly, there are very few venues for it. I was not expecting this comment in any way. It made me smile. Chant on person. Chant on. I used to really love writing. I wasn't super talented or anything but enjoyed it. About 8 years ago I asked the guy I was seeing to read a short story and maybe give some feedback because I valued his opinion. He said that asking someone to read something you wrote is the most selfish thing in the world and that he would never read anything of mine. Shattered my self-esteem and I never wrote again. What a weird thing to say. That's like saying a photographer is incredibly selfish for just showing someone a photo they took. I always loved writing. My entire family laughed at me for it, but I kept at it anyways. And then we discovered that my little sister had a hard time spelling things, so she was encouraged to write anything and everything whenever possible. I still got laughed at. Mom has called me the most uncreative person she's ever met to my face. Sister's got a creative writing degree, at least one completed novel, and is published in a couple anthologies. I have a dead muse. That's a mean thing to say to your child. I got really into working out, like I was addicted. I was 155 pounds and got up to 220 pounds. I loved it, but I was never egotistical. I would occasionally share my progress if I broke a PR, but I was never taking vids and selfies at the gym or anything. I just enjoyed the feeling and seeing progress. The fitness Instagram phase took off and the gym was crazy packed. I constantly saw people take 45 minutes at one flat bench because they had to keep taking pics and vids. Mirrors would be hogged by people posing and I started to really dread going to the gym. I just stopped lifting one day, went like a year without lifting weights and just focused on running. I got back into the gym a few months ago because I missed it, but it's still the same there. So now I try to go at night when everyone is gone. I loved working afternoons because when I got off work, the gym would be practically empty. Instagram is freaking weird, man. Naz failing to show up to a gig in Budapest 2007. We waited till 3 AM and he just stole the $50,000 in cash and left by private jet. Since then I just stopped caring about hip hop. I used to be very into World of Warcraft for many years. I ended up becoming an accomplished raider and a pretty famous healer on my server. I was most heavily into the game during what LK and Cataclysm. Looking back, the times I had raiding realm firsts during those expansions were amazing. Such great memories and I wouldn't change a thing. The feeling of downing heroic Lich King after months of progression and having your name spammed across the server for everyone to see if they were online at the time. Man, what an unreal sense of accomplishment. But over time, the whole cycle of gearing up every expansion only to have it ultimately reset, it started to wear on me. I like to feel that my time is spent working towards something that lasts. All that progression and overcoming those tough boss fights, that it counts for something. And for a while, it does. You get the recognition. You make new friends. People love grouping with you. You stay up till the late hours of the morning just chatting and bonding with your guildmates. Then over time, it starts to change. A few years pass and you realize that 90% of the people you've ever played with have lost interest and quit. And they're all replaced with fresh-faced young raiders who are all fresh out of high school and super keen to push content till 2 AM every night. The game's mechanics keep changing every expansion. Why do they need to give healing an overhaul so often? Why do they keep removing awesome cooldowns and mechanics that I used to love? Why do they keep increasingly moving towards a model where the current patch is the only relevant content in the game? I reached a point a few months ago where I was going into BFA and I had a secure position as a healer in the top guild on my server. It all seemed good on paper. I was performing well. I liked the people in the guild I had joined. They seemed to like me. But I had this weird moment where I realized 90% of the people in my guild had started playing in MOP or later. Some had even started playing in Mid-Legion. People barely even remembered half the raid bosses I fondly look back on. Some never experienced them and were still in primary school when I was raiding them. I eventually hit the realization that I just don't care anymore. It just becomes an endless repeating cycle. A process of having to reprove yourself to a new group of people over and over again, of the entire game resetting and bringing people back to square one. You take a break for 6 months, come back and none of your gear is relevant anymore. It's like the entire game has changed. So I just stopped playing. I don't think the time investment is even worth it for me anymore. Man, I rambled a bit there, but I just needed to get that off my chest. Haha. I thought anything related to computers and technology is my passion, and went to attend a university for an IT degree. Turns out I'm not as smart as I thought. Coupled with competitive people and stressful life made me realize high marks equals passion. I don't have any passion now. If it's any help, I've found I do better studying on my own than going to a school with people. There are certs you could try for. Maybe just take a different approach. It's a little off topic, but taking antidepressants killed my passion for stuff in general. I used to feel so deeply and so strongly about things. Now I'm just a happy neutral, which is somewhat lamentable really. Yeah, I understand. I don't feel like killing myself so much, but I also don't feel like doing anything else either. I played football my entire life. I was a tight end in high school and blindsided a linebacker while blocking on a screen. I deckleted the guy and just pummeled him into the ground. He made the strangest sound when he hit the ground. Something between a yelp and cry, and stopped moving. He came back to his senses pretty quick, but you could tell he was groggy and didn't play the rest of the day. I got a bunch of nice hits and people were excited about what I did. I broke my ankle in practice the next week and was actually happy about it because I had basically lost any will to play hard, knowing I was capable of really hurting somebody. I was out the rest of the year with my injury and decided not to play the next year. I can still clearly hear the sound that kid made before he went unconscious in my head to this day, and I have no regrets about not playing again. I did drama in high school and I love theater and performing, but the atmosphere was toxic. A bunch of diva teenagers talking crap about each other and why they or someone else should have gotten the role. Same with choir in high school. Also band in middle school. I didn't want my life to be about band and I dodged that bullet. I was a techie in high school and holy crap, theater kids are freaking awful. The spotlight guy and I would just talk about football while the cliques within the cast were all talking crap about the others. I played in an up and coming metal band. Toured the country, made a little money, made friends, loved every second of it and everything about the lifestyle. One day I got the news that my vocalist had essentially sexually assaulted multiple girls and coerced even more. I stepped down from the band and the other members did the same, all while starstruck at how blindsided we were about our bandmates' secret life. I lost a friend after learning more about their character, and I also lost my passion childhood dream career. This was about a year ago, and every time I play the drums or jam with friends I become defeated. My passion for it has just completely disappeared, and I can't find anything that can quite replace it. That truly sucks. I'm not sure of your age, but I'm 51. I regret every second I didn't play now. It's way too late for me, but I freaking dream every day that I was 22 again and had just disciplined myself more and found the right people. Hope you find the dream buddy. The conservatory killed my passion for my instrument. It was too demanding and time consuming for a student who has a life outside of it. Too many requirements, and little mobility or understanding when a student had a predicament. Loved the instrument and I wish I could have stayed with it, but can't deal with the conservatory. I used to be quite athletic. Played first team soccer and basketball. Often did 3 games in a weekend. I wasn't good enough to be a professional, but at my level I was having a lot of fun. Then, when I was 23, I blew out my knee. I didn't give up immediately, got the operation, worked hard for over a year and came back. Yet I never played without pain again. I stopped at 27. Couldn't bear it anymore. Haven't blown out my knee but approaching my 10th rugby year and 27, and I don't blame you one bit. The random breaths of pain when talking to co-workers in meetings is not worth it sometimes. When I was in middle school, I was really into circus arts. It started with just learning to juggle, and then I started going to a circus camp each summer where I learned to roll around in a German wheel, swing on a trapeze, and walk on stilts, among other things. After attending this circus camp for a couple of years and learning these skills, I got the opportunity to perform at an actual circus. Shortly before I was to do a stilt walking performance, I got up on my 6-foot stilts and started wandering around the circus grounds to get warmed up. I eventually found my way to an enclosure where they kept a free elephant that little kids could ride. There were no other people around. It was just me and the one elephant that was on the closer side of the enclosure. As I stood there, the elephant came over to look at me. Standing at eye level with an elephant was an incredibly powerful experience, and one I'm not likely to forget. I remember looking into his eyes, and I could see a lifetime of pain looking back at me, even though up to that point I'd been entirely separated from the animal side of circuses. In that moment I was ashamed to call myself a circus freak, to be a part of an industry so dependent on the suffering of animals. It's been 6 or 7 years since I saw that elephant, and I haven't performed in a circus since. I still juggle, but that was the last time I ever got on a German wheel or a trapeze or a pair of stilts. I used to enjoy singing. I was honestly never very serious about it, maybe because I never had time to be. My cousins would make fun of me for singing in church or singing along to the radio. One time of each is all it took, and I haven't sung in front of someone in almost 20 years. Start again and sing for yourself. Do it away from anyone else and keep it a secret if that helps, but pick it up again if you enjoyed it. I used to love gardening. Absolutely adored it. I went on the FFA horticulture team. It was such a big thing for me. Then my mom started getting involved. She would ask me to eat every single plant we passed, tell her what was wrong with every plant, and would try and get me to tell her what every bug she saw near a plant was. IT was annoying as heck. Constant, unending questions I had answered 100 times. I still enjoy gardening, but nowhere near how much I used to. Also, pro tip. Never tell anyone you like beekeeping or gardening. The gifts for birthday or Christmas will become bee plant crap and you will have 50 smokers in your closet. Just got a couple of bee shirts for my birthday and I love it. I'd kinda be happy about the smokers so I could swap them off for more boxes. A-level exams killed my passion for my subjects because I wasn't studying because I was interested. I was studying because I wanted a grade. It's kind of like doing YouTube for financial reason and not just a hobby. Hope I made sense. The culture of AAA game development. I even got a degree in 3D modeling and design, with some light coding experience, but the ceaseless horror stories of studios both large and small kind of ate away at my starry-eyed dream of working for a huge company I've grown up loving and adoring, on top of mediocre pay and the endless butchering of titles for DLC and loot boxes. I don't want to be complicit in that system on any level. A few years on now and I can't shake my desire to create a game. And I've decided that I'm going to do it as a hobby all by myself, like Cave Story. It'll take a very long time. It won't be easy, and it's not necessarily going to go viral and make me rich. But I can do what I love and be proud of my own product, more easier than I think I ever could be if I was forced by a suit to butcher another game. Good luck, fam. My mom found my writing and shared it with the whole family when I was about 14. It's been years and I still won't write anything down that isn't for school. My friends deciding that they'd rather drink at a bar every night with a half chance of getting laid than playing board games and checking their Tinder once in a while has really killed my fascination with tabletop games. My wife and I have them all: D&D, Monopoly, Risk, Stratego, Killer Bunnies, Quarriers, Gun, etc. All gathering dust now: 0. The current over-commercialization has really dampened my love of Harry Potter. I still love the books and the movies, but since Cursed Child things have gone really downhill. It seems to be all about how much merchandise they can sell by slapping a lopsided snitch or the Harry Potter logo on it, and Crimes of Grindelwald was just a mess. I wish J.K. Rowling would just stop messing with the canon. McGonagall wasn't even born when the movie is set. Same. I was recently at Universal Orlando, and every bit of Ravenclaw merch has a raven on it, except the Ravenclaw animal is a goddamn eagle. I bought nothing while I was there. Craft breweries and distilleries make it very difficult now to enjoy a random beer without deep analysis. There are only 2 types of beer: hum nice and hum no thanks. I get overwhelmed at the beer store and typically just panic and grab something I know. Until high school I loved writing and had a 5 subjects notebook full of poems, short stories, etc. Not to sound arrogant, but I knew I was a good writer. When I showed people, including my teachers, I would always get praised. I was talented and I wrote pretty much daily in that notebook. Around sophomore year I was living in a crowded house with an uncle that was jealous of my writing skills. He was an aspiring rapper, yet his verses were awful and everyone but him knew it. He also has a mean streak and had no problem doing petty crap to get back at people he felt had wronged him. One day, I searched for my notebook and couldn't find it anywhere. I searched for months afterwards trying to find it and it never came up. Later, after asking everyone in the house, I found out he had just thrown it away in the trash after reading some of it. It was one of the most heartbreaking moments in my life. That year was the worst I've ever had and my notebook was like therapy for me. I've been beaten, sexually assaulted and bullied, but I consider that the cruelest thing that's been done to me, except academic essays. For the last 8 years I haven't written anything. Graduating 5th grade killed my passion for kickball because I knew I'd likely never play it again. Cut to 10 years later where I've now discovered that there's a tremendous kickball league in my area. Being told I was a failure and that I would never amount to anything really put a dent in my interest in programming. You can do whatever you want in programming. Almost all of the learning is self-driven, so it's still there for you whenever you want it. Don't let the jerks of the world talk you out of it. Competitive swimming. I must have been passionate about it at some point. I did it for nearly 15 years. I'm not sure what happened, but the day I realized it had stopped being fun, it hadn't been fun for a very long time. Film school really killed my passion for film. It's all a sham. The people who succeed in film, they're so talented, do so on a diet of daddy's money and free time. Who would have thought that having access to the nicest equipment and opportunities in the business at a young age would lead to success? Once you look into the industry, it's all just old money and nepotism the whole way down. The only true outsiders in the film industry are the documentarians, and even then, if you go against the correct opinions of Hollywood or Silicon Valley, you can kiss your chances at distribution goodbye. It's an awful, corrupt industry and it needs to die, so that it may be reborn anew. Me Too is just a step in the right direction. My mom scaring me out of studying music killed my love for it. I was obsessed with music in high school, wanted to become a professional musician or at least a music teacher. I constantly was warned I would be poor forever, I would never find a job, and I was throwing money away by studying it. She didn't say no to me pursuing it, but I was discouraged constantly and got no support. Eventually caved and agreed to do a double major, which turned into just not pursuing music. Regretted not just going for it and now just feel very bitter about it. I wish I wouldn't have listened, but I was 17 and pretty impressionable unfortunately. I don't take my mom's life advice anymore because if I did I would lead a horribly empty life. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.